Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pits of Motor Chaos. This is your host, Dave. Online special guest, Top Fuel Dragster owner Terry Totten. How you doing, Terry?
I'm all right. Doing good.
So, so how's the race season been going for you?
This year we kind of stepped back quite a bit compared to last year. Did not run nearly as many events. We are currently building our arsenal for next year um, to get back out there a lot more than we did. So it's exciting for next year for us. We're going to be running a funny car potentially also, including a dragster. So that's going to make for some fun.
Now, the funny car you're gonna drive?
Well, we haven't panned out everything. We've got the car. A friend of mine purchased it. I've been building on it, getting it updated, getting everything ready to be legal. It was a brand new chassis. It had never been ran before, so it was a backup car for one of the teams, and we picked it up when they changed designs. So we are finishing it basically. Didn't have all the fire bottle lines on it. Had some updates that had to be made, but we haven't decided whether I'm going to stay in the dragster and we put somebody in the funny car, or if I cross license over to a funny car and put somebody in the dragster. We've got a couple people in mind. We've talked with several people about both. So, I've talked to a couple people about wanting to run in the dragster, and I've talked to a guy that wants to run in the funny car. So we're kind of open to either or, really. We combined forces from our funny car chaos stuff. We traded out of that, got into this car, and now we're building up our inventory because we've duplicated everything that's in the dragster to go into the funny car. So it's going to have all the exact same everything. Same blocks, same cranks, same heads, same cams. So we don't have to carry two sets of this and two sets of that. All of our spares will work for either car. So it's taken a lot of time to go through, sort through, and we need to sell this because we need to buy that kind of a deal. So we've been, selling off parts and buying parts, duplicating what we got, which is going to make scratching our head, digging for parts, a lot easier when we have the same motor in both cars and same clutch cannons, same rear ends, same brakes, same everything on both cars. Superchargers. Other than that, exhaust and injectors are about the only difference that we're going to have between those two cars.
So now, how do you feel as the owner? Would you rather be driving, or you don't mind stepping out and letting two drivers drive both cars?
I wouldn't be opposed to stepping out and letting two different drivers so I can focus on tuning. I wouldn't, by any means let my license lapse. But what we're looking at, or what we're finding out, is that to run a full season just takes too much money. But there's a lot of guys out there that would like to run a car. So, as an example, if I get one guy that wants to run the dragster at 3 or 4 events, and there's nobody in the funny car, well, then I'm going to drive the funny car for those same 3 or 4 events. If we're going to transport everything there, then we're going to run both cars. If I find somebody that wants to run the funny car for 3 events and nobody in the dragster for those 3 events, then I'm going to drive the dragster for 3 events and let them drive the funny car for those 3 events. If somebody came along, or if 2 people came along and one said, during this event I want to run the funny car, and somebody else says during this event I want to run the dragster, then I'll be turning knobs and pushing buttons and letting them both drive. So it's pretty exciting for us. I mean, it really is. We're probably not going to travel back and forth across the United States. It just doesn't make sense. After the opening Southwest stuff in Arizona, Pomona, and then Las Vegas, you drive from Arizona all the way across the Gator Nationals and then all the way back to Las Vegas, and it just doesn't make sense for us to do that. Well, we would stay on the West Coast. We would do, those two races out there. We do Arizona, possibly Pomona, but then definitely Las Vegas, and then maybe Houston, and then work back towards the center. One of the drivers that's looking at wanting to get in the dragster is on the East Coast, and if that's the southern part, Tennessee area, if that works out, then we would probably do some stuff more on the southeast that we don't normally go to. We usually stay Chicago and to the west. But that wouldn't be a deal breaker if this person, for logistics on his end, wanted to be on the East Coast doing some of those, Bristol and Atlanta, Florida, then we would look at that. But it really just depends on, if he actually wants to get in the car, if he gets it done, basically.
Right. So now, Terry, let's turn back the clock on this a bit here. Now, how did you get involved in drag racing in the first place?
I used to crew, volunteer crew on Don Sasenka, Mr. Magoo's car back 15 years ago. And that's kind of how I got into it, and then I bought my first funny car from him, which was he turned into an alcohol car, and that was a car that was built by Johnny West. It had a really, really neat paint job on it. And Sasenka used to run, match races way back. And he did a lot of stuff in the IHRA as well as the NHRA and as well as booked in match race stuff. So it's all business for Don. He doesn't, he doesn't do it, and it's becoming more and more business for us. The only problem is it seems like when it becomes a job, the fun kind of goes out of it. So we're trying to keep it fun. We don't want to be driving every single week, all these miles to go to a race and basically running as hard as these guys do makes it unfundable for us. So it's not, dollar wise, it's not going to work, and for fun wise, it stops working because it becomes too much work. If you know what I mean? It takes the fun out of it when it becomes, you have to do it.
Right.
Like this, the guy that's looking, or the guy that bought the funny car that's having me build it to match my dragster. He's about my age, maybe. I think he's a little bit older. My brother-in-law, who works on the cars with us, retired this last year. He had 33 years in with his current employer, which was the city of Omaha. So he retired. So that really makes, Scott is my brother-in-law, and everything that he does from working on the trailer, inventorying the trailer, keeping the trailer clean, keeping, tools where they're supposed to be, it's huge, because I go from one thing to another and go in so many different directions. It's like a tornado just walked through the room, and he always manages to help keep me, keep things in line. So, but anyway, back to your question. After I started crewing with Don, we started working on getting his son Joey's license, and that was where I kind of decided, I'm going to get my own license at some point. It took a long time. I got the car put together, and I wasn't ready to get in it. I didn't come from junior dragsters through the super comp ranks to the alcohol ranks and then to nitromethane. I never competed in a single national event or a sportsman event before I got in a top fuel dragster. I just, it didn't make sense to me. I wasn't going to buy a super comp. I did go super comp dragster in Frank Hawley's school to get my license in super comp so that I could cross over to the next level and then cross over to the next level. It wasn't about going and racing. I mean, my dad, we were a boating family. Our weekends weren't spent at the racetrack. We had too many brothers. I had too many brothers and sisters, so going to the lake was a lot more feasible for us when I was a kid than to go junior dragster racing. So we didn't do it. Drag racing wasn't an option. So, long story short, I went crude. I fell in love with it and decided that's what I was going to do, and that's what we did. We put together a car. I wasn't ready to get in. I had Rob Passy, talked to him. He's like, yeah, I'll drive it. It was a sister car to what he'd normally been driving for Madison. So he got it, and then we kind of stalled on me getting anything done because we just kind of were out having fun letting Rob drive the car. So Rob's got a car of his own. He's kind of gone in his own direction. He bought Manson's car from him, Don Manson, who was part of the Manson and Passing. And there was another guy involved in that, and I don't remember who it was. But anyway, now it's just Rob and his business partner, Eric, who is Don Manson's son, put together a car, and they're going to go run their own Top Fuel dragster starting next year. Actually, I believe it might be in Las Vegas, and that's kind of the first event that he's going to be in because he needs to keep his license. You got to make enough runs every couple of years to keep a license. So he's ready to go. He talked to me last week. So good for them. I might even go out there and help them since I won't be bringing a car out. We're not doing anything more this year. We've got everything torn apart, and we're going through everything with the fine-tooth comb for next year because we're not gonna stall. We're not gonna stall out next year. Next year's gonna be a get in them and go. We're just gonna go to each one that we want to go to, and each one that we got that we get somebody else in the other car, and we keep qualifying, and we'll just keep on rolling.
So you said you started out driving an alcohol funny car?
I had an alcohol funny car. I made probably 5-7 licensing runs in it. We went out and did a few events with it. And a guy by the name of Kurt Persowski from here in Omaha drove it at the events because I had not got my license. He helped me get my license. And when I made my last pass, I was 2 mile an hour short from the 200 mile an hour that was required. And that was the end of the season. We didn't get to go back out. And at that point, when that winter came, we put it back onto a fuel car. We didn't ever go alcohol racing again. That's when Terry Persowski, who works, I believe, on Matt Hagen's car now, was just a kid, and he was helping us out. So we crew is something that I have never been able here in the Omaha area, been able to find regular guys that want to go racing. I can find guys that want to be paid to go racing that have come from some of the bigger teams. Unfortunately, we don't have a budget for that. Not yet. I mean, someday, hopefully we will. We've been talking to some new people about sponsorship money. I've always stayed away from sponsorship money. When you talk to somebody, it seemed like they always wanted to dictate, how many qualifying passes you're going to make, performance clauses and things like that, and how many events you're going to all play into it. And it's never been anything that we, as me owning my own business and having a full-time job and a family with 2 girls that are, one's 3 and one's 10, I can't leave that up to somebody else as to when I'm going to go. That's more what my wife gets to decide than the sponsor would get to decide, because that's a lot of weight on her when we take off for a week, And then if you do a back-to-back one, it just double downs on her. So we're if they were older, things might be a little bit different. But this next year, I've talked to her considerably about it, and the littlest one's getting a little bit older. It's not as needy, so that's going to free up this year, 2020, for us. It's hopefully going to be a pretty big year when it comes to racing.
So for 2020, you might look for some sponsors?
2020, yeah, 2020 is a different ball game for us. Exactly. Yeah, we have been talking, and not anything that is going to be a controlling sponsor. We're looking at some associate sponsor stuff that we've got from just providing fuel to providing hotels, more of a associate deal, and localized to more of the areas that we're going to be picking on when we're going to go racing. You know, and some of those are coming, from a travel agency. You might see the name of a travel agency on the car. You might see the name of a transport company on the car. And that's where it plays into the transport company providing fuel, the travel company providing lodging, just those things that are going to make it the expenses that are going to make it a lot easier for us to go to more races than we've ever been able to go to, because those costs are going to be covered.
Right.
And when those costs are covered like that, we can take extra, an extra person here or there, as far as having an additional hotel room, having, that's just huge for us, because those expenses really start to, chip away at it when you have to have, 3 hotel rooms for 3 or 4 nights. And in some of these areas, the price gets ridiculous because the hotels book up. They're fine during the week before, the week after, but when you want them and you give the dates to the hotel, if you're not 4 or 5 months out, when there's plenty of rooms, it's like they got this sliding scale where the price keeps going up the less rooms they have. You know what I mean? It's a supply and demand thing, and then all of a sudden you're finding these prices are going, for $120 a night hotel room, you're in the $250, $260 a room, and you don't get any option if you don't want it. There's no other game in town unless you want to drive an hour. And that gets old for guys that stay at the track, work until 12 o'clock at night, to come back at 6 o'clock in the morning and drive an hour each way.
Yep.
It's just, so those big changes there, if all those things come to reality, then we're going to be able to do a lot more racing next year. And if they don't, we're still picking our local within 9 hour kind of a deal, and maybe throw in Las Vegas and Arizona. Arizona test session is going to be a big one because we're going to be cross licensing possibly a guy in the dragster or myself in the funny car. I mean, it's really important that if we have a funny car that we have somebody that can drive it. So, and if worst comes to worst, we'll look at the events and either take the dragster or the funny car, whichever one NHRA seems to have a lighter field on, and try to fill up that field, So it might be one of those deals where one weekend, we're going to drive the dragster, or we're going to run the dragster because they only have 17 cars, but they got 19 funny cars. And then it might be the vice versa the next event we go to. They may be stacked high with funny cars, but they don't have a lot of dragsters. The rumor mill is always kind of funny. It seems to, and when I say rumor mill, it's, the off season isn't even here yet, but there is a lot of talk from a lot of different guys that are going to be coming out in dragsters. I mean, if you look at who all has purchased dragsters over the last 6 months, you got Lee Calloway, Foley Lewis, Tim Davidson, Jim Maroney. There's another guy in Colorado. There's Artie Allen out of Florida. Terry Bryan took this year off out of Texas, but he's looking at it coming out and doing more. Justin Ashley. Audrey Worm purchased, I believe, her own car, which freed up leverage car for another driver. So when you add it all up, there's 10 more potential dragsters to be out running in the NHRA next year. Yeah, so, and dragster class could be could be considerably different than it is this year. Actually, and then I talked to another guy who purchased the car I licensed in when I was driving the car with Terry Totten. So there's another one. So there's, it could be a crazy beginning of the season next year. And a lot of those guys, obviously, they're going to be doing the same thing that we are. They're going to be keeping it close to home, trying to keep expenses down. Nobody, not a single one of those people that I know of has basically committed to do anything more than 5 or 6 events in their local area. But our local area, we don't really have any tracks. I mean, Topeka's the closest one, so we're looking at going to pick. We're going to be stepping into their territory of the country, which that's what makes it fun. You look at funny cars now. On the other hand, you've seen McIntyre come out. Lexus DeJoria has committed to coming back next year, and Shu will probably be a full-time deal. I see Bob Gilbertson was out there this weekend in North Carolina or Charlotte. So there's 2 on the funny car side versus 10 on the dragster side.
Yep.
That's kind of what made us lean towards, having a second car to go out and it's all about the number of laps you can get. And that's a lot of the reason why we decided to duplicate the power plant that's in the dragster into a funny car, because we don't get to make nearly the number of runs that all these other teams do, that will help us considerably, because if we go run the funny car and it's got the same head, the same motor, granted the car's going to run differently because it's a funny car, they're heavier, there are other things, but we still have the same piston rod combination in it and the same, so it's going to help us. We'll have the same fuel management system, the same clutch management system, the same, so we're still going to be able to get data. I guess is what I'm saying. Because we've had pretty successful last couple of years of not putting parts. I ran my career best in Las Vegas at the beginning, at the 4-wide last year. So actually, I'm sorry, at the beginning of this year, where the car went its first 300 with me driving it, it went its first 390, which was a huge step for us. That all started by opening up and changing some parts around. I got rid of some cylinder heads, and I got some later grader John Force heads on the car, and it just freed up horsepower. It just made the car run so much better. It made the blower so much more efficient. It made everything work better. They were bigger CCs. We could put more fuel in them. Everything just worked better when we put them on the car, and we did that. That weekend was a 3 best. My first round win, my first 390, my first 300, and we went and we did 3 laps, 410 and lower. And that's where we, that was like, wow, I guess we can go out here and do this, because from that step to the next step to the next step is just going a little bit faster and a little bit faster, but doing it without hurting anything was the big thing. Going the first 300 and the first 390 and being able to put bearings in the car and look at a few rings and go back out there was, tremendous for us. A lot of these guys, you can put these things on kill and go out and run a 385 or a 387, but if you can't keep the motor in the car, if you're replacing a cylinder head and you're replacing the block because you twitched it, doesn't do you any good. You're starting over again as far as that goes.
Yeah, you mentioned Lee Calloway. I got him coming on there in about an hour.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he just finished his license, so I'm sure, and I don't know what his intentions are. If he's planning on doing 10 events or 24 events, But I know being based in your area, southern Texas or Texas area, that's the races you're more than likely going to go to. And with Palmer's help and Lagana and them, he's a shoo-in to be able to be down in the 370 to 380 range. You know, as long as the funding is there, that's the main thing. I think just about now you can get the recipe to go run a 380 from a couple of different people. The only problem is that you have to have the pocketbook that goes with it, because the life expectancy of parts when you start running 330 miles an hour, it doesn't matter who's tuning the car, they're not going to live that long. Crankshafts, rods, and pistons are going to have to be replaced. Cylinder heads are going to have to be replaced. It's too abusive on them. You know, even the drivetrain, you start doing that, everything starts. You got to look at everything when you start running that. That's why these guys like Torrance, man, those guys are phenomenal, because they know exactly what they need to do, and they've been doing it so much. You know, you start running 370s, and you know what it starts picking on your car. You know, the first 390 I had one of Terry Haddock's guys came over that's always been looking over our shoulder to just kind of help us, and said, have you checked this? Have you checked that? Once you start running 300, you got to check this, you got to check that, because, and then it becomes a thing of having help, you know, because 3 guys or 4 guys can't go and do everything that has to be done, you know. So I don't even know I didn't see what the times or speeds were on Lee's licensing runs, but they were probably very, very respectable, you know. And Terry, like I say, even down there in Texas, Terry Bryan sat this year out, but that car has all the potential to go out there and run the 370s and 380s too. The problem is, if you don't have a good money sponsor doing it, it's too expensive, you know. For me, it's way too expensive. I can go out and run 410s, 415s, keep parts together, do it, you know, consistently, and go from race to race to race, as long as that will get me qualified. But once you got to start qualifying with a 380, I'm out. I can't. Without additional money, at that point, there you hit this little bit of a wall, because now your parts attrition is gone. You are buying, you know, stuff that puts you over the hump. There's no return on your investment at that point. You are putting more crankshafts in, putting more rods in. Price of rods is going up. Price of cranks is going up. Price of nitrous.
Yep.
I know it's got some companies and some big people concerned about it. That's for sure. You know, but it's one of those things too. You know, that the United States is doing what it needs to do, and I understand it. And nitromethane, you know, the normal daily consumable things, it sounds to me like are probably going to be a microscopic change. But the luxury items and the things that are not needed for day-to-day life are going to get hit. You know, and nitromethane is one of those things that's not needed for day-to-day life. You know, it is for some of us, but for the majority of people, it's not.
Right.
So I'm kind of curious to see what it goes to. I mean, right now we figured if it goes to the really super high price that I've heard some numbers that you're going to spend $1,500 to $1,500 in just fuel to make qualifying runs. Yeah. And that's crazy. You know, if you're going to spend $1,000 every time you stomp on the loud pedal just in fuel, that's not your oil, your spark plugs, your clutch disc, your tires, everything else is going to go with it. That's just the nitromethane. So I know NHRA has been looking for other means of obtaining it, other than, you know, because I think about 100% of nitromethane in the United States comes from China.
Yeah.
So, but we'll work through it.
Yep.
You know, and the talk with all the dragsters is the same. You know, there was 10 years ago when I bought my tractor and had it all ready to go. The first season I was going to take it out, I was like, oh, sheesh, man, all these cars are coming out. I won't even be able to go run my car. All these other guys are going to go out and set the world on fire, and I'm going to be, unable to compete. But it never happened, So we'll see out of all those cars how many actually start coming and running. Owning the car is the least expensive part of the deal. Going out and running it's where it starts to get expensive. 100 people can own a car, but go out and run 390 with it. That's the killer. Then you start seeing, oh wow, you pay for your crew, you pay for your food, you pay for your hotel, you pay for your fuel, you pay for everything. You get there, you pay for, and then you go out and you hurt the car and put a different block in it, crank rods and pistons, and now you've spent $20,000 and nothing comes of it other than you got to sit in the seat for 9 to 12 seconds during qualifying, and hopefully at least once on Sunday. Becomes a very expensive addiction.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to have to listen to your show to see what his plans are coming up here in an hour.
So what year did you get your Top Fuel license?
I got my Top Fuel license at the end of 2017. After the Dallas race, 2017. And then I made my debut 2018. So
now who signed off for your license?
Palmer, Terry Haddock, and then on another line I had Tony Schumacher and the surfer Jeff Deal for the last two passes.
Now if Schumacher ever gets a sponsor, he'll be back out there.
Yeah, he will. There's, like his dad says, he won't ever fund a car out of his pocket. There's just no return on investment. He's a complete businessman. It's all business all the way. For us, I love drag racing. I want to keep doing it, but I'm not going to spend my retirement to go do it. If I can come home with my car in one car, all my parts together and my car in one piece, I'll keep doing it as long as I don't have to dip into my pocket, and I can do it with qualifying money, and it'll help from some friends. Once it becomes a bottomless pit of money, because I've talked to some of these guys that are bringing their cars out. I bought this, I bought all these cupcake clutches and all these cylinder heads and all these blocks. I got a entire arsenal of parts, and I'm just, well, that's great, but if you don't know what you're doing and you want to try to run 370, you'll be done before a quarter of the season is up. I think that's a lot of the reason John Force and Schumacher started making their own parts, so they didn't have to buy them from somebody else, because it gets too expensive.
Yeah.
Well, the guys with all the cars build all their parts. There was a reason they did that. It wasn't because they're available at your local O'Reilly store. It's not a nationwide thing they're putting out there. They're doing it because it costs them a lot less money to make their own parts than it was to buy it from anybody.
Yep.
And that's, Schumacher and Force are both doing the same thing. And I've been I haven't been in Force's establishment, but I have had the tour at Schumacher's, and that is a phenomenal thing they got going on. But, what's going to happen when those guys are done? When they decide, I've had my run, I'm done. Schumacher has that facility and builds all those parts and things like that. Is he going to do that to sell them if he doesn't have, Infinite Hero, the Make-A-Wish Foundation? Tony's not in a car. Leah's been struggling to keep herself in a car. That's, if there's only 3 cars left in the Schumacher camp, is he going to keep doing it? Yeah. How do you sustain that type of facility? There's, And if he's all about business, I don't see him, you know. And John, I know he had probably high hopes in his girls wanting to be a huge part of it, but now life gets in the way of that, especially for the girls that become moms.
Yeah. So for you, do you have any drag racing heroes?
You know, John, I'm sure John Force is a hero to a lot of them, and because of the way he has built himself to where he is, John Force didn't have everything that he has from. It wasn't ever handed to him, you know. He did it through drag racing. So, as far as a drag racing hero, somebody who is built up to what they are, that didn't come from, a whole lot of money to begin with, that to me is phenomenal. So, John Force is my hero in that respect. As far as drivers go, and just all around people, you know, Jack Beckman, and he's just an awesome individual, you know, and Steve Torrance and the Lagana brothers. You know, Lagana didn't come from, you know, a huge money family. They came with a huge heart family, you know. Their dad and Dom and Bobby are some of the best drag racers out there, but they're also some of the kindest people you'll ever meet. So that to me makes them heroes to me. They don't climb on their horse. They're not arrogant in that way. They're still approachable when you know them. You know, you don't. They care about people. They care about the sport, which makes them heroes to me. You know, not putting down anybody that came from junior dragsters and had a lot of money and now sits in the top fuel nitro funny car. Those guys, you know, they have their place in it too. But I didn't come from money. You know, I've been building up everything. If you would have told me 30 years ago or 20 years ago that, hey, you know, at this time in your life you're going to have the potential to drive either a top fuel dragster or a nitro funny car, and you're going to, you know, partner on one and own the other, and go out and do this stuff, I never would have believed it. You know, it's taken a lot of work. It takes a lot. My family suffers probably more than anything with the late nights at the shop, and you know, but they know it's what makes me happy, and in turn, I do everything when I'm not there to make them happy. So kind of a trade.
So what have been the milestones of your drag racing career?
Probably Las Vegas at the beginning of the year. You know, getting my first 300, getting my first 390, and doing it with parts that a lot of guys wouldn't even have tried it with. You know, even the chassis and the dragster. You know, Ty Baumgartner does a lot of work for me on that car, and a lot of pipe, everything except for the driver's compartment is all, you know, new pipe. But the chassis VIN tag, for the most part, it's born on date. Still says that's a 19 or a 2000 McKinney car. You know, it's probably one of the oldest cars out there. But I can't throw it away because it still does the job. You know, and if it needs front half or back half, you know, all those updates that they do keep the car new. You know, the born on date doesn't matter at that point when there's nothing. When every flexible part on the car, everything that sees any kind of distortion and trauma in a run is replaced, it's, to me, a new car. But it is an old piece in that respect.
Now, have you had a most embarrassing moment on the track?
I'd have to think about that. Actually, I did, but I wasn't in the car. It was when Rob Passy was in the car. We were in, I think it was in Topeka. Rob, I was in charge of backing him up, and we always have a glove over the vent, and I forgot to take it off. So after Rob had lit the first bulb. I flew him. I ran out his rack and I put my hand out in front of his face so he didn't go in and stage the car, but he had already pre-staged. And grabbed it off there and ran back. And as soon as I got back there, I stood there for a second. I thought, oh my God, that was the dumbest thing a person could have done on national TV. The glove would have came off. It wouldn't have been a big deal, but well, unless it's stuck in the injector. But I just thought, wow, how stupid. But I didn't even think about it when I saw it there. I'm like, oh God, I can't let him go. And that was my job. There's the car owner out there running out there when the bulbs are lit. The pre-stage bulbs are lit. I was just like, wow, unbelievable. That's probably the most embarrassing thing I've done.
So, what's been the fondest memory of your drag racing career?
The fondest? Qualifying and being able to take my, at that time, 2-year-old and 9-year-old out on the stage when they were there to be at the race. That's always that's kind of walking through being the number 15 qualifier and having both my kids with me and my wife there. That's probably one of the fondest memories. Those days are pretty cool. It's always more fun when the family can be there.
So, do your two girls, did they like drag racing?
My older one thought she would, but then we looked at some junior dragsters, and she just kind of is in a different way. I mean, she's very, very smart, so she is a book kid. My littler one is a little more of an animal when it comes to stuff like that, and a daredevil. I think that she may end up in a car at some point. She likes it. It doesn't bother her at all. The noise doesn't bother her. It's pretty amazing to see that 3-year-old out there, and it doesn't seem to faze her at all. So that's promising when it comes to a kid getting in a car when they're not afraid of the noise and things like that at a young age. My older one was very, we ran fuel altered, and my little one, she was little at that time. I didn't know she was out of the toter home and so close to the car, but we fired it up, and those fuel alters we had, it was on alcohol. We rev them up to make sure they could either miss it at high RPM, and I looked over and seen her run back in the toter home, and I thought, oh boy, she got scared, and I think that affected her right there, and then it kind of, then the noise from just a junior dragster now seems to bother her. So the little one, I think she'll get into a junior dragster. She loves riding around on a motor scooter with me.
That's awesome. Well, Terry, I want to thank you very much for taking time to do the interview.
Sure. Anytime.
You have any final words or anything? Thank yous? Any kind of stuff you want to do?
Oh, yeah. I'd like to thank the Forces and the Schumachers. I've been stepping up to running both of those their parts, and they've made it a lot easier for the smaller teams to stay out there, and for the help from the Laganas. They also do some parts wheeling and dealing, and it really helps the little guy out more than they would know, because if I had to call up and buy some of this stuff brand new, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. It's just too much money. And thanks to Don Sasenka for introducing me to this sport, and he has helped me every step of the way, and always keeps my head level. When I tell him what I'm thinking about doing, he just looks at me and says, "Nah, I wouldn't do that," and he gives me the reason why. And that always helps me, and it saves me money too from trying to go run with